Hey everybody. Remember like 5 months ago when we all thought that Hydra was all the craze and people were calling the set 4 meta tier 0 before the cards even came out? Well, while I think there's some merit behind what the reaction to Hydra did to the meta, I think ultimately we've been living in an Ira world the whole time and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Bing here, and today I wanted to check in with you all about how I did at the Chicago Grand Tour. I also wanted to take a look at the Italy Grand Tour results because I'm a huge fan of some of the strategies that we saw coming from top 16 and what people are doing to try to overcome this monster spirit that is Ira. I ended up taking an Ava Owen deck to Chicago because I was really excited to play something new. I had played Ira in the online tournament back in May, and while it was very obvious to me just how strong the deck was, I was really impressed with how Ava Owen was able to keep up in this meta now that AT Field is in the game. AT Field turns out to be pretty good against some of these top decks, mainly Ira and Hydra, because their destruction effects cannot destroy the spirit, and as long as that spirit can last into the attack step, it keeps, in purple especially, it keeps really important things online like Doubly Deadly and Beldegord, to name a couple. Now, I call the deck a core control deck, and to be fair, it does have a decent amount of core manipulation in it, but if I'm being honest, that was not the engine at all that helped me get a top 8 finish. Instead, Deadly Balance and Doubly Deadly put in an insane amount of work because these cards together are so incredibly strong. I mean, yeah, hard removal is obviously great, but having access to both of these magics in color as opposed to running 2 to 3 Deadly Balance out of color just changes things entirely. And yes, I've only just now come to this realization because I've never spent any meaningful time playing purple until this event, but the amount of board control that you have with these magics is just, it blew me away. As far as the Ava cards are concerned, we have some obvious inclusions, such as every card that has the word draw on it, and we have a bunch of nerf cards, like Accomplishing a Miracle to combo with Mordred and Nemesis. We have Mark 9 to start a chain of immortal procs. We have Second Phase, which gives us the double symbol spirit and a board wipe. And then we have this sweet Oscar Nexus, which, speaking of, this card lets you get away with so much in purple. Assuming I had the reduction on board, the Oscar Nexus that I had was essentially a free immortal trigger, moving the cores from the trash onto another spirit. But on top of that, I can move the cores to a spirit that I expected to be destroyed at some point, and that would then free up like a Scope Owl play where I could flash it in as a finisher or as a defensive option. Overall, very pleased with it. For the non-Ava cards, we pretty much have spirits that prevented us from feeling like we were breaking if we hadn't seen a Shinji Nexus, because that is the biggest pain point with these Ava decks, is not seeing your Pilot Nexus. But Ava 01 is fortunately one where your odds are even higher because you have 2 to choose from. So you have Infinite Secret from the set, and then you have the starter deck Nexus as well. Both of these are really good too, so having both of them never really felt bad. But back to the spirits, we have Beldegord. He got us out of a lot of bad situations, kind of touched on that already. Same with Scope Owl. He actually won me my last match, which was great. Mordred helped a bit, but he hid in the deck most of the time, and Nemesis was actually really good. He helped dig through the deck when I needed him to, and his Wind Destroyed effect was great against the unexpected Hydra or Ira player. For the magics, we don't need to talk about Ice Shield. We already talked about Deadly Deadly and Deadly Balance. Core Theft helped fix our hand to make sure we were getting value off of the starter deck Shinji Nexus. Also just a great purple card in general. And then we had 1 copy of Dream Bomb because I like it. In the sideboard, we have an extra Scop Owl and Dream Bomb. We have Thorn Prison and Suppression to deal with aggro, and Ava 01 Operation Yashima. This card was quite handy to have around, but it was very situational. His recursion effect is not limited to spirits, so it made the blue and red matchups a little bit more tolerable, but his swing is super interesting. You don't need a Shinji Nexus to remove cores, so you can still take advantage of the destruction effect from that part. But if you do have one on the field, then killing a spirit also deals 1 damage to life, which makes for a 1 symbol spirit that threatens 2 damage at different stages in that swing. Yeah, it's a super interesting, pretty fun interaction to play around with. I won my first matchup against Joshua, who was running a really interesting deck with great Sapphire Labyrinth and multiple different Ascend units. So we had he had like Hydra, Ira, and Nova in the deck. So it's a pretty core expensive red-blue deck, but we saw a similar theory work in Milan that we're going to talk about later. So definitely like this deck for sure. But after that, I ran into Travis, who was on green aggro, and I just drew insanely well against him. I saw 2 Ice Shields game 1 and 3 Ice Shields game 2. And then I just saw all my low-cost spirits that I needed to out aggro, so sorry buddy. In game 3, I lost to Alex on Ira. I'll talk about that in a bit. After that, I played another Ira matchup against Nick that I won in game 3, and if I'm not mistaken, I actually won with Ava 01 Operation Yashima, got the full combo going. That felt good. But that was only to get paired up against another green aggro player, Austin, who I did not draw as well against as I did with Travis. Last round was against Justin. He was also on Ira, but with Scorched Battlefield. He had a very aggressive playstyle, and you know, trying to get as much value off the Scorched Battlefield, and yeah, it was pretty terrifying. I really struggled with how to deal with it, but I still managed to take the win, and I ended the tournament 4-2 with, again, a top 8 finish. Very happy. The first match that I lost to Alex on his Ira list main decked Floodstream, something that caught me completely off guard because I knew going into this that Ava 01 was weak to magic removal. I thought red was still a decent matchup because we could pretty comfortably get over the 3k threshold and dodge Burning Force, but Floodstream in the main, especially without having seen Beldegor, just kept us behind. There isn't much to say about the green aggro matchup that I lost to Austin. It is what it is, even if I am dead inside because of it. As you've probably seen by now, and as a surprise to probably no one, Ira ended up winning the event, which, by the way, congrats to Chris for going undefeated. We actually had a fair amount of deck diversity for top 16. Yellow was the only color that was missing from top 16, so I think that was pretty great. But Ira is still seen in 25% of the top decks. So even with Evangelion cards, Ira is still a very dominating deck in the format. So the question is, what did Italy bring to the table? Well, Ira still won, but the theme that we saw coming from these decks was what I found to be the most interesting. The biggest obstacle with Ira is that it is always blowing up your board unapologetically, just getting rid of all of your one symbol spirits. So why not try and add more double symbol spirits to your deck? Second place, Andrea Ferrari, which, excuse me if I'm pronouncing anybody's name wrong, found a ton of success also running Great Sapphire Labyrinth Hydra, but instead running 10th Angel as like the support package for White Control. This gives White Control a ton amount of flexibility, and when you pair it with Fat Frog, which is also going to help you ramp off of Great Sapphire Labyrinth, just gives you an alternate win condition through milling out, because you have all these Ascend spirits that you're attacking with, right? Tiger, Hydra, 10th Angel. Very cool to see. The Ava 01 deck that took 10th place actually ran Ava 01 Awakening, which is a great mid-range card that I've had my eyes on for a while. It's a double symbol spirit that has a good stat line, it comes down for pretty cheap, and when it's paired with another Ava spirit with AT field on it, Ira just loses a ton of value because it's not drawing anything. I also want to shout out all the Madukes that we saw in main decks and sideboards because even though it's a one symbol spirit, it's a great way to maintain board presence in this meta. But if we take a look at the winning deck, Wily Coyote, which is a great deck name by the way, we'll see its own answer to the Ira Mirror, which is just more double symbol spirits. And this one doesn't require Ascend. Ava 0208 gains a green symbol when it's paired with a Mari Nexus on the field, giving it protection not just, again, in the mirror, but against your own Ira as well. This card is frightening as it is, just because of everything that it can do, but Ira being able to have an in-color double symbol spirit option without having to ascend off of another spirit is just crazy to me. The ramp you get from the Willy package makes Big Bang Energy not as important, which sets up room for, what is that, Thorn Prison? What is this, set 3? Big Bang still has some value though, which is why I'm assuming Gray Server to Seeing Worm is still in the deck because magic effects on bodies is just so strong. However, what I think is most notably missing is no main deck Nexus removal. Personally, I think this is super greedy, but I also think it makes a ton of sense because the deck looks like it just wants to stall more than anything and then just clean up with Ira. I really like this deck. I even played a version of it at our store regionals, albeit a more aggressive version, but I gotta be honest, it's a bit overwhelming trying to beat Ira in any deck he tends to show up in. I think the idea of investing in double symbol spirits is fantastic, but Ira gets to do the same without running a Nexus out of color because the Mari Nexus is technically in color for the Willy package, and then Ava 02 gains that secondary symbol without the penalty of having to ascend, so it just makes for a very strong pairing for an already very strong card. I'm making this video full knowing that a few months ago I made a video talking about how much I loved playing Ira, and I stand by that video because at the time it felt like playing the archetype then was getting over the hurdle that was Hydra. However, despite feeling a bit clueless on how to take down Ira these days, I'm actually really enjoying playing the game quite a bit. Deck building is something that I love doing, and doing it competitively adds a flair that I've never really felt before. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have an answer to Ira, but I'm confident this archetype can be taken down, and the ways that people are trying to do so are fascinating to me, and it's really keeping me interested. One of those ways, unfortunately, and I really hate to admit it, is aggro. It's not even that aggro has a good matchup into Ira. It does okay, but it obviously hasn't won as many events as what Ira has. But aggro plays really well into the decks that are teching against Ira and other decks with multiple big threats. I think that's why we saw 3 aggro decks top in Chicago, and while I'm not sure about the amount of aggro decks that were in Italy, I think it's pretty clear that these fast decks are just looking to stick around and check to make sure that you didn't forget that the archetype is still in the game. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Canada Grand Tour has in store for us. I know attendance-wise it's not going to be as big as Italy, it's probably not even going to be as big as what Chicago was, but still, I really hope to see something that expands on some of the decks that we've talked about today. One more thing that I want to point out is that Hydra was massively more represented in Italy than it was in Chicago, but the deck largely went unchanged even with Evangelion cards coming out. I think there's room for this deck to improve with these Evangelion cards. I think it might make it a little bit more consistent instead of more high-rolly. Take that with a grain of salt, though. I've avoided playing Hydra ever since it came out, but it no longer scares me the way that it used to. ProFest is right around the corner, which, speaking of, if you plan on going, you might be interested in my video talking about Gen Con and how to plan for it. I definitely recommend watching it if you've never been to Gen Con before or you don't know what to expect from the country's largest tabletop gaming convention, but I'll be there competing for my Worlds invite, so if you see me, feel free to say hi. But at this point, I just couldn't be more excited for ProFest because I think we're going to see some really spicy lists. Anyway, let me know down in the comments below how you're feeling about the current meta. Is Ira too strong, or have we just not found a unique way to deal with him yet? I know we're probably overdue for an updated ban list, but if we were to get one, what would you like to see on that updated ban list to deal with the current format? That's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Be safe, be happy, everybody. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.